how many more days? How many days till Halloween?
2 more days till Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. 2 more days till Halloween. Silver Shamrock is not what we're talking about today.
No.
Great movie, though. Yeah. We're talking about Halloween Havoc from 1992.
Yeah.
We're working our way into the 90s now, and they're getting better with the Halloween stuff. They have the spooky 90s CG opening, which looks great and looks exactly out of one of those, like Friday night lineup things, or like, here's our spooky episodes, and it's all just that weird early 90s CGI stuff with the haunted house and the filter effects. I haven't got the set yet, though. No. I'm waiting for when they get the set, because I've seen the pictures, I know it's coming, and it looks amazing, and I wish I had it for the house.
Yeah. Anyway, this was fun.
Yeah.
Not too much Halloween type stuff till like towards the very end, I don't think. And heck, even the first match is just a 6-man tag that I have no idea who any of those people were, or if there was any story, or who was the face or the heel.
Yeah, that was what was confusing me the most. I know we watched enough of these. I know the Z-Man, but I know Arn Anderson, and he's usually a heel, because he's really good at being a bastard man. Yeah. But they were cheering him. Yeah. Even Jesse the Body Ventura mentioned that. So, like, I was halfway through, I'm like, I don't know who was supposed to be the face, who was the heel, who am I rooting for, but it was a good match. Yeah,
it was fine. I don't remember ever hearing the Z-Man before, but I want to work that into make that one of my titles for obvious reasons.
You might want to talk about Roger Reigns about that. Zane, because he was Z-Man. He made a few jokes. Yeah. So you might have to fight for that title. Okay. Challenge him on Twitter. That's the thing you do.
Okay.
But it is. I have to say this, though, because the commentators were Jesse Ventura and Jim Ross. Yeah. And for all the people like, keep the politics out of wrestling, Jesse Ventura, for some reason, like, that guy looks like a right-wing Republican. I'm like, what? Yeah, why? What?
Jesse Ventura is really good on commentary, but there was a lot of times he's like, okay, what the hell was that?
Yeah, right. Just random things that popped into his head.
I went and saw the Liberty Bell today. Did you see the Liberty Bell, JR?
Yeah, I saw it, because it was in Philadelphia, which is... Shane Douglas was in that 6-man tag. I thought it was funny, because he would go on to be the first ECW as Extreme Championship Wrestling in Philly. Okay. Which also is funny because we had Paul Heyman as Paul Dangerously. Paul E. Dangerously. And man, did he like time travel, and his spirit went forward, and he pulled back all the fucking assholes on Twitter when he was yelling at Medusa. Yeah. I am a man! You are a female! Woman! I'm smart cause me man! Like, God bless him.
Wow,
yeah. He got into it, though. Like, he does not half-ass those things. But he was... And then she kicked him in the face, and it was great.
Yes.
But that was later on. We always jump around in these things. Like,
well... I mean, a lot of them, again, I don't know if it's just the style at the time is different than we're used to, or that we're not watching any of the build-up that leads it to it, but a lot of these matches blend together to me.
They really do.
Yeah,
and like, you know, we're part of, like, I know of these people, and I've seen a few things, but like, there's no one that's like, oh yeah, that guy, except Stunning Steve.
Yeah.
With hair.
I will say that was a really good match. That might have been my favorite match of the show, and it was a good match in general. But there was a lot of good storytelling.
There was.
In it. It was like I really like how the Steves.
Yeah, it was Dr. Death Steve Williams, Stunning Steve Austin versus the Natural Dustin Rhodes, and who was his partner? Barry Windham.
Yeah. The heels were managing to tag, like, back and forth a good bit, but, like, for the longest time, Dustin just was not in the match. Because they just managed to keep him away. They managed to keep... The faces didn't tag as much, is what I'm trying to get at, because the heels are really good at keeping them away from each other.
Even though this is, like, the first time, because something happened to Dr. Death's original partner. And so they brought in Steve Austin, Stunning Steve with his hair. And it's still always going to be weird to me see him with hair.
But different this time because we actually got to hear him talking stuff this time around instead of him just showing up and like flipping his hair around. And like last time we saw him was he sounds different. Like, okay, part of it is this is what 30 years ago, so his voice is going to change. But he don't have the Texas drawl. No. He's not talking as deep. He was. It wasn't as rough and tumble. No. You get different characters, okay, but that threw me.
Yeah, it is weird when you... Even in Paul Heyman, like, his voice sounded higher than it is now. Like, it wasn't as gravelly. Honestly, I think years of yelling promos probably just wrecks your voice box.
Yeah, but also, like, and there was also, back to the Steves and the tag team match, there was also, like, confusion. Like, at one point, the ref didn't see a tag, so even though the faces did manage to tag... The ref said, no, he's not the legal man, and that led to some confusion. And it was like, and all of these had time limits.
Remember time limits?
Yes. And this one was like right down to the wire.
Yeah.
So.
Like, there were like a couple pins, like, when it's like 30 seconds and 10 seconds. Like, ooh, it was a real good build of drama, actually. Yeah. Like, the tension built up well, and they retained from, the time limit draw had happened, the faces got to retain.
Yeah.
So that was a good match. What is interesting to me is knowing what happens later. Because JR is singing all the praises for Dr. Death, is they do bring Dr. Death into the WWF, and JR is the guy championing him. Okay. And it's funny because, Steve Austin is also his guy, and he came, whenever JR came back as a heel, because he had to go away for the legitimate medical reasons, like his Bell's palsy was acting up.
Oh, okay.
And we talked about it earlier, but in the middle of watching it, that Michael Cole has been there for a while, and he could also be seen as the voice of the WWE now, instead of with Jim Ross. So that's when they brought Cole to be a commentator, and JR came back as a heel, and Dr. Death was there with him, and he kicked Cole in the balls. And the story of Dr. Death in the WWE is they brought him in to make the Brawl for All when Vince Russo wanted that. Okay. And it was supposed to be even though it was a shoot fight, he was scripted to win.
Oh, is this the boxing thing?
Yes.
Yeah, I've heard
about it. And he got his ass beat.
Watching YouTube videos and stuff.
Yeah, and so after that, they just were done with him. Like, I don't remember ever hearing from him again after the Brawl for All. Yeah. So going back and watching him in WCW, where they actually are behind him, is a really interesting thing.
So here's the interesting thing about me. It was like Steve, Dr. Death.
Yeah.
When they first started saying Doctor, I was hearing it as Dr. Destiny. So at first I thought, okay, that's funny, the DC villain connection. But then to me it sounded like halfway through the match they started to call him Dr. Death. And I was like, well, wait, why did they change it? Is he Dr. Destiny or Dr. Steve? And then I realized Dr. Death Steve. The two words sort of blurred together, and my brain just picked up the slack, I guess. So that was kind of funny to me.
Which is even funnier because he had the skull on the back of his tights.
Yeah.
So I will say Jesse Ventura is the only one in the costume.
Yeah.
He started out as the Grim Reaper and took the mask off.
Yeah, and he made the stereotypical crack about, oh, JR, what kind of mask are you wearing? Scared the crap out of me. Yeah. Yeah, a classic.
Classic.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what it was. We never go in order in these things. If you want to play-by-play, go watch Brian Zane. Because he also covered this one I say this week, but technically it's the same week. We got to this one late.
Within 7 days.
Yeah. Like the ring curse.
Yeah.
Halloween.
Yeah.
But there was Ron. It was a weird thing. Ron Simmons was WCW champion, but they also had the NWA title on the line, where it was like two referees.
Yeah.
Which was
that one was also a good match and a good story, but it was just also kind of convoluted.
Yeah.
I mean, it worked, but
it's great to see Rick Rude wrestling because I got to when he couldn't wrestle anymore. But there's a moment I looked away and he knocked out Harley Race, who was the ref, and then there's another ref. What happened to the other ref? You have two refs, and he went, Rick Rude knocked both of them out. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, because it was they're fighting the Japanese guy, so they have the Japanese wrestler. It's really weird. I'm sure there's a reason for it. I'm sure if I go looking for it, but it just felt kind of convoluted.
Yeah.
And we got two ref bumps.
Yeah.
But he wanted the Suzuki, I think that guy won.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was and to me it was just weird seeing the NWA title on WCW because I don't understand or know the history, but I just know of NWA as this sacred original thing. So just seeing it somewhere else felt weird to me, but it worked. And we say convoluted, but it was still good. It was still enjoyable. It was just like, there was a lot to keep track of.
There was. And it was also a lot of old school wrestling, because there were a lot of, like, rest holds and chin holds. And I'm like, this would get a boring chant these days, but, like, I see why they did it. And it was weird, like, I think it was that match where he got submitted and he tapped out, but he did, like, this, because, like, the tap out didn't really come about in wrestling until Ultimate Fighting came about, and Ken Shamrock showed up. Because before, it was just like, you say you quit, or they raised the arm and it lowered. Yeah. So, the submissions were really weird, but now we're so used to them tap out, going back and seeing before they had that. Yeah. It's a weird thing. Like, how do you indicate, like, I'm done?
Yeah, when, like, Rick Rude was doing that, I was half thinking, it's like, wait, so does that a submission? Does that count? But the match kept going. So.
Yeah. So, it's a weird time. Like, it just makes it... It's one of those things where I'm glad they adapted that, because it makes it a lot easier to tell. Like, okay, he's done. Yeah. What else did we have on the... We got to see Vader, which is another convoluted thing, because Rick Rude was also the United States champion.
But he was having Vader wrestle on his behalf.
Because of lawyers and things. Yeah. And, Vader's a powerhouse. Yeah. Like, it was nice to finally see him wrestle. He's never seen it before. Yeah,
like my only real connection with Vader up until now was one of the times he showed up on Boy Meets World. Apparently there was 2 episodes, but I only ever saw the one.
And so I got confused when I looked up things I'm going to use for the thumbnail. It was like, as a graphic of Vader and Cactus Jack's like, oh, they're going to fight. Okay, good. I heard they put on good matches. But Cactus was involved in a later match. Yeah. So I was like, oh, I'm disappointed. But, like, it was... Who was Vader fighting?
Oh, crap, I can't remember the guy's name.
Yeah, I can't remember either.
I made the foreigner joke.
Nicole...
When the match started, but apparently that guy was actually the face. Yeah.
Nicole...
Whatever you're trying to say sounds
yes,
right.
Koloff. I'm going to... Nikita Koloff. That was Nikita Koloff. He's another one whose name I've heard, but... They put on a hell of a match.
Yeah, that one was really, really good.
Yeah, Vader looked like a dominant monster. Yeah. But still able to move and stuff. And you get some top rope stuff.
What part I liked about that is Vader got pushed out of the ring, so the ref started to do the 10 count, and the other guy tried to stop the count because since it was a championship match, if there was a count out, he wouldn't have gotten the title. So I thought that was a neat little bit of storytelling.
Then he got his arm ran into the side of the ring. Yeah. And it was also that match I realized, like, it's weird back in that day where the announce table was literally right next to the ring and was just a table. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, damn, I didn't notice it was right there.
Yeah. And there were, I think it was the Sting match, or like, if Sting was just like a half a foot over, he would have hit the table. Yeah. Well, one of the times he went flying over the ring. Ropes.
Yeah. And there was like a moment where it was like, we want Flair chant. So I mean, I think this was when Flair was in WWF. Yeah. Because we did watch Rumble 92, and that's where he was. But it was clearly after they made him give the title back. Yeah. Because like they had the NWA title there, so. Because I was like, Bill Watts was in charge, but I think it was Jim Herd who was in charge there. So I don't know. It's one of those things I have to look at where the timelines fall. But I know somewhere around 92, Flair was not in WCW. Yeah. So yeah, like, I really want to go back and see when, at some point, they merged, or WCW broke away from the NWA, but they kept the big gold belt. Yeah. And they had their own title here, which is Ron Simmons had that. And it's funny seeing how, like, WCW was entrenched in Southern wrestling. Yeah. Ted Turner got the wrestling business. But they had a African-American champion way before WWF and WWE ever did. Yeah. So, and yeah, it was...
And that was also a good match. Ron Simmons versus the Barbarian.
And that was where Cactus Jack was involved, because he was training the Barbarian by putting cinder blocks on his back and smashing it with a sledgehammer. Yeah. I don't know what that did, but it looked impressive. Yeah? And that was...
I'm not going to fuck with either of those guys.
It was a lot of, like, just boom, boom, not moving, boom, which is a cliche and simple, but it gets me every time. I love seeing that stuff.
Yeah, it was 2 big meaty men slapping meat.
It really was. And Ron got to retain. So, I was like, I didn't think I ever heard about the Barbarian being a champion. I don't think he's ever going to be a champion. He's one of those characters. He's there to be menacing, and you fight him, but he's not going to win much. Yeah.
But since we mentioned Sting, we got Sting versus Jake the Snake Roberts in the Spin the Wheel, Make a Deal, and it was the coal miner's glove.
Coal miner's glove and a pole. And here's my deal with that. Like, this is another apparently really good Southern wrestling tradition thing.
Yeah.
But, like, they call it a coal miner's glove, but it's a fucking welding glove.
Ah.
It's a welding glove with a steel bar. So the whole thing is you punch someone, you knock them out with a steel bar. So I don't know where coal miner came from.
Yeah.
Other than maybe that's a Southern thing, because they coal mines. But
maybe it sounds cooler.
Yes, because I guess welding glove works too. Yeah. But I do love the wheel they had for it, and they had a big switch he pulled, and it's full of like chainsaws that looks like a saw blade and has all the stuff spinning. I'm like, that's why like when they did NXT Halloween Havoc, the first year they had it was just digital. I'm like, boo! And then they finally fixed that by making a giant prop.
Okay, so this is probably like one of the most basic things, but I don't know anything about anything. I'm just curious because I mean wrestling's predetermined; it's staged.
Yes.
So they knew it was it was going to be the coal miner's glove match before they ever spun the thing. I'm just curious, like, how do they get the wheel to land on what they want? Like, what are the effects or what goes into that?
I'm assuming there's someone like stopping it.
Yeah, that's one.
But yeah, I don't know how like it doesn't look like it didn't just like stop on a dime. It did slow down, but like I don't know how they pull that effect off.
It's just something I'm curious about. If anybody knows when it happens to answer.
They did have other. They showed us other stuff in case we get this thing.
Yeah.
But I'm always because this was an unsanctioned match.
Yeah. And we know that because they say that.
Oh my god. We give them shit for saying stuff now, but like that's apparently always been a thing. It's repeating things. But like in the kayfabe, when you have an unsanctioned match, why is a ref there? Why do they even show up in their gear? Why don't they pull a gun and shoot someone? Yeah. Like none of this is like gonna come back and like they signed waivers, so WCW is not responsible. I'm like, then why are you doing all the pomp and circumstance with their music and everything?
Yeah,
just come out and just beat the shit out of each other.
Yeah.
You can. That was one thing Jesse pointed out. Was like, you can kick someone with the flat part of your boot, but not the toe. That's illegal. You can kick them with the toe then.
Yeah.
It's just the unsanctioned matches always felt weird to me.
Yeah.
The only time I felt it worked was when Shawn Michaels and Triple H had an unsanctioned match, and Shawn Michaels was in his jeans. I'm like, they're not doing this. Why are you doing your whole thing?
Yeah. And it's just like this is something I thought of, and this is how I would have booked it if I was running it back then, because every match except the Jake Roberts unsanctioned match had a time limit. So I would have had it like tried to find a way to mention it somewhere that the match only happens if the matches end before their time limit ends and there's enough time. Because if one of the matches was scheduled for an hour.
Yeah. Glad that didn't go an hour.
Yeah. So I feel like that would have been a good bit of storytelling or something. Maybe Jake the Snake gets involved to shorten the match to make sure he gets a shot at Sting, or tries to keep the match going so he doesn't have to fight Sting.
Yeah.
So speaking of Jake the Snake, the reason I wanted to bring this match up specifically is and since we started doing the show and watching these old pay-per-views, this is like the second time I've seen Jake the Snake in something. I want to say the other one was a Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
But he is just really good at like really small character moments. Like there was a moment where Sting tried to do a drop kick, but Jake moved out of the way so it missed, and he just sort of went, he just sort of shrugged at him, mocked him a bit. It's just a nice little moment like that.
Oh, I missed that one. But yeah, he was always really good at the character parts, the promos, and the wrestling.
Yeah, and he was a good wrestler. Don't misunderstand me. It's just that is a character playing a role, and he's very good at it.
That's why it was tragic what happened to him later, but that ended well for once.
Yeah.
No, I've heard all the time about the snake bit where the snake comes out and bites him, and you can tell he's just kind of holding it there. It is a real snake, though. Yeah. It is biting him, but, he has to hold it there to, get the effect going.
Yeah, and that's another bit of storytelling. Like, Cactus Jack brought the snake out to him, but it backfired because Sting got the glove and hit him, and so... So, again, nice bit of storytelling.
Yeah.
That is one thing I'm noticing in some of the older ones, at least in the Halloween Havocs and the WCW ones we've watched, and it's not like grandiose storytelling, but it's just like, these aren't just matches, they're chapters in a story, or a story in and of themselves.
Like, if we weren't...
And that's something we don't get as much. I mean, we know that they're, like, the payoff to a feud or whatever, but there's not much storytelling in the match itself.
Yeah.
So that is something I'm starting to notice in the other ones. And I'm not saying one is better than the other, but I do wish WWE would do a little bit more of this. Which we are getting it, though, with Triple H in charge.
I was like, because, like, going back to NXT, like, I started watching the takeovers just when we got that, and, like, the Gargano, Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa feud, like, they told a story in the ring.
Yeah.
And it's things like that, like what you're talking about, they tell a story, like, and even Jake Snake versus Sting, they're like, oh, we thought this would be ending, but this might be the beginning of it. And I'm like, yeah, I can see this being the beginning. I am a little annoyed they didn't, like, do the hype package where they showed us the mini-movie that led into this, where they go into a bar and they spin the wheel and shoot lasers out of their eyes at each other.
You mentioned something about that before we watched this one. I was waiting for it.
But they didn't, because this is back before they really did that. Yeah. But I think the reason they do more storytelling in the ring here is this was before, Nitro and Raw, before the weekly shows, and pay-per-views weren't a monthly thing. They were, far and in between. You had a couple, like, random TV things, mostly house shows, so they had to tell their story in this big event, and they did really well.
Yeah, it's really good.
So, the thing I love about doing this is going through and seeing the slow progression of what it used to be to what we know it will be.
Yeah.
Like, whenever I don't know when Nitro came out, I have to look that up, but I'm curious to see when, like, the first Halloween Havoc after a Nitro. Yeah. So I'm sure they will, say it and talk about it. And the production values you see are getting better, because there's not as much lens flare.
Yeah, like the light trail.
Yeah. From the you can actually see what's going on.
Yeah.
So, I feel like there should be more we should talk about, but...
Yeah, I mean, there were other matches, and they were all good matches. Like, the only one I would say is a bad match, one I would even say was a bad match, is that first one where it was the triple threat, and I had no idea who anyone was. I didn't know what the stakes were, if there were any stakes.
Yeah. It was an opening match. It was a good opening match.
Yeah,
but
it got my attention.
Yeah, we just weren't involved in it. Well, we saw Missy Hyatt try to go and talk with...
oh, yeah.
Try to get in there. I remember your reaction. Oh, hello.
Yeah.
But yeah, and the Bruno Sammartino was there, so I think he was on the outs with WWE at this time. Yeah. And it was him and Tony Schiavone just being random presenters.
Yeah, they was just, every once in a while they talk about, say, oh, are you looking for this? Yes, this will be really good. It's like, oh, this person is a really good fight. I'm not trying to mock his accent. I'm just trying to say, this is the sort of thing Bruno said.
Yeah. It's one of those things I wonder if, because I remember him being, one of the things he got ousted on is he was suing them about concussions, and I'm like, the concussions affecting him? Because he had some, felt like he had trouble expressing himself, and may have slurred things, so, it's like, oh, that's sad.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember when Paul E. Dangerously went off on Medusa, and they had the fight, Vader was there, because he just helped win. Yeah. And he was like, whenever she was just beating the shit, I was like, you know what? Not my business. And he got out of there.
Yeah, the interviewer just put the mic down and just slicked off. He's like, I am not getting paid enough for this.
That was great.
Yeah, I love stuff like that.
In the face. Oh, there was that bit, I think it was with Ron Simmons and the Barbarian, where JR was explaining one of the things. I forget the word he said, but Justin was like, what does that mean? What does that mean? What? It's like, and Ross like, well, you were with the other guys at the time, so you wouldn't know that. And I'm like, I know what you're talking about there. Yeah. It's always fun when they kind of address the other competition a little bit there.
Yeah.
So that was our rambling review of Halloween Havoc 92. Good times.
It was fun. If you want a good slice of what wrestling was back then, or why people got into wrestling, I recommend it.
Yeah, and you can't go wrong with Halloween things. I want to get back to trying to do paper reviews more regularly now that schedules have changed.
Yeah.
But as I told him, I'm determined to do this one. We got to it late, but I'm determined to do it because it's not just a thing for content for the channel here. It's a Halloween tradition for me now, and I love a good Halloween tradition.
Yeah, I love Halloween. I love doing stuff for Halloween.
Oh, yeah. So I can't wait for it to be more spooky. I'm pretty sure Halloween Havoc is where the Yeti Yay!
90% sure, yeah, because you asked me once if we want to skip ahead. It's like, no, I want to do these in order.
Cannot wait.
Yeah.
That has ruined the way I say Yeti. I've never been able to say it, but goddamn, like every wrestling channel I've ever watched has talked about that. Brian Zane went on his big rant and just remember the goddamn Yeti. So I cannot wait to get to it. Yeah. But we got a few years, so we'll see you next year for Halloween Havoc 93, and whatever the state of the company is will be then.
Silver Shamrock. Happy Halloween, folks.
Happy Halloween.